Stories are the most powerful thing on earth. They are literally life and death. Wars are waged based on the story of who is the hero and who is the villain. You are the result of a story your parents told each other, the one-night stand, the soulmate, and friends who became so much more. Life and death. So wouldn't you like to understand them better, these stories? How Story Works, an elegant guide to the craft of storytelling by Lani Diane Rich, demystifies stories and helps you understand why you love what you love, why you hate what you hate, and why prologues are almost always a bad idea. How Story Works by Lani Diane Rich. Available on Amazon in ebook, audiobook, and paperback form. Get your copy today.
Welcome to Still Pretty, a Buffy the Vampire Slayer podcast from Chipperish Media. I'm film scholar and vampire slayer Noelle LaCroix.
Wait, no, I'm the vampire slayer.
No, I'm the vampire slayer.
Oh, fine, I'm story expert and other vampire slayer Lani Diane Rich, and we're here today to talk about What's My Line Parts 1 and 2, the 9th and 10th episodes of Season 2.
What's My Line Part 1 aired on November 17th, 1997, and was written by Howard Gordon and Marty Noxon and directed by David Solomon. What's My Line Part 2 aired on November 24th, 1997, and was written by Marty fucking Noxon.
That's right.
And directed by David Samo.
A warning before we begin. Every episode of Still Pretty talks about each episode within the greater context of all of Buffy, and as such is fully spoiled. It's your lucky day. 2 Slayers, no waiting. So let's go on patrol. In What's My Line Parts 1 and 2, the kids at school take an aptitude test, but Buffy's results don't matter. Her future is pretty much set. Meanwhile, Spike is frustrated that Buffy's preventing him from figuring out how to cure Drusilla, and he hires a trio of assassins from the Order of Taraka to take care of his problem.
The Order of Taraka? I mean, isn't that overkill?
No, I think it's just enough kill.
Buffy wishes for a normal life, so Angel sets up an ice skating date while the rink is closed, at which an assassin tries to kill Buffy and she takes him out with her skate blade. As she and Angel kiss, a girl watches from the shadows. Buffy takes a ring off the guy and brings it to Giles, who identifies it as the sigil of the Order of Taraka, and warns Buffy that it might be time to get the hell out of Dodge. She hides out at Angel's place, while the girl from the ice rink attacks Angel at Willie's bar and locks him in a cage.
Eastern exposure. The sun will be coming in a few hours. More than enough time for me to find a girlfriend.
Buffy forgets to call Giles and check in, so he sends Cordelia and Xander to check out Buffy's house. As Xander pokes around, Cordelia lets a human-looking bug demon assassin in, thinking he's a makeup salesman. Meanwhile, Buffy is awakened at Angel's place as she is attacked by the mystery girl. They fight, and in the midst of things, Buffy makes an odd discovery.
Who are you?
Who am I? You attacked me, who the hell are you?
I'm Kendra, the vampire slayer.
Buffy takes Kendra to Giles, who figures out that while Buffy was dead that one time, Kendra must have been called. Kendra's story is miles away from Buffy. She was given to her watcher as a baby and has been studying all along. Her technique is flawless, and Buffy thinks maybe it wouldn't be so bad to do the slaying thing in shifts. Meanwhile, the sun is about to get Angel when Willie pulls him from the cage and dumps him in the sewer, delivering him to Spike.
What are you going to do with him anyway?
I'm thinking maybe dinner and a movie. I don't want to rush into anything. I've been hurt, you know.
At Buffy's house, the bug demon disintegrates into a million worms and comes after Xander and Cordelia. They lock themselves up in the basement, fight, and then kiss. At the school, Kendra tells Buffy what she did to Angel, and they rush off to Willie's to find him. At the warehouse, Spike delivers Angel to Drusilla.
You've been a very bad daddy.
At the school, another assassin dressed as a career day police officer tries to shoot Buffy, but when Willow gets in the line of fire, Oz jumps in front of her and takes the bullet. Luckily, it's just a flesh wound. Still cool, though. Xander and Cordelia escape the worm demon and rush back to the school, where they report in. Giles shares some disturbing exposition.
I've discovered the remaining keys to Drusilla's cure. The ritual requires the presence of her sire, and it must take place in a church on the night of the new moon.
Angel's still missing, so Kendra and Buffy return to Willie's, who says he can take them to Angel. Kendra wants to report into Giles, but Buffy's not going anywhere until she finds Angel, so Kendra leaves, and Willie delivers Buffy to the remaining assassins. At the church, Spike prepares Drusilla and a weakened, tortured Angel for the ritual which will restore her to health and kill him. Willie delivers Buffy to Spike, who is not pleased.
I got your Slayer.
You ripping? You bring her here now?
You said you wanted her.
In the ground, Pinhead. I wanted her dead.
Kendra, Giles, Willow, Xander, and Cordelia show up, and a fight ensues. The church catches on fire, everyone takes a bad guy, and they're all dispatched except Spike and Drusilla. Spike ends the ritual early, with Angel still alive, and rushes off with an unconscious Drusilla. But Buffy knocks him out with a sensor, and he and Drew crash into a collapsing pipe organ that appears to not have been made very well. They rescue Angel. Buffy and Kendra share a warm goodbye. Xander and Cordelia indulged in a little more slap kiss. And back at the church, from the ashes of the shoddily made pipe organ, a reinvigorated Drusilla rises.
Don't worry, dear heart. I'll see that you get strong again. Like me.
All right, Noelle. So what's my line? Parts 1 and 2, kind of the first big, double story for Buffy. What'd you think?
Not my favorite.
Not your favorite. Okay.
Not my favorite. There are a lot of really, really good lines. Mm-hmm. We have some excellent writing in these episodes, but overall, I don't know. I don't know. There's something missing for me.
Okay.
Which is, there's a lot of good stuff here, but no. And now I feel bad because this is probably somebody's favorite duo of episodes.
Oh, everything is somebody's favorite. And if you say anything about anything, somebody's going to come after you. Sometimes they come after you because you don't hate it enough. Sometimes they come after you because you hate it too much. So no matter what, somebody out there is going to be disappointed. And if you're out there and disappointed, sorry. So here's the thing. I kind of what's my line? I never remember that fondly. And then I go into it and I like it a lot more. And I think I like it for its little moments. But the overall story of it does sometimes feel a little off. We've got these 3 assassins from the Order of Taraka who are supposed to be so seriously badass, but Buffy takes one of them out with the blade of her skate, and just no problem at all, and then we've got another one that's just a bunch of worms that apparently just I don't know, takes over. Like, it killed the woman whose house he went into because you hear her screaming. So you presume that he killed her and set up shop in her house. You see him drinking tea there later. So there's got to be something really bad about that guy. But mostly he's just gross. Then we've got the cop with the gun, right? And a gun is always unearned power, So when somebody wields a gun, it doesn't speak to their particular badassery. It almost speaks to their cowardice, to their hiding behind something, right? And borrowing power from something that is not truly earned of their own. So we have a guy whose big threat was just being big, right? We have the guy whose big threat is being gross, and then we have unearned power with the third one. So I think that when you put these episodes on this, idea of these guys are so dangerous that Buffy must run, it doesn't really deliver on that promise of danger. And so you feel like, I think, a little let down by those scenes. And again, by that kind of construction altogether. But what I do love in these episodes are the moment to moment work. I love the Spike stuff. I like Buffy and Angel in this. I love the fact that we've got this second Slayer, this idea that, Buffy died, only a little, but it was enough for her to, for there to be a new Slayer called, which is something that has never happened before. I was a little disappointed that Kendra came in, for 2 episodes and then she scoots off until, we kill her in the finale. But But I mean, overall, like, I really kind of like a lot of the things going on in this episode. I love we get Oz. This is our first kind of, Oz, Willow sort of finally talking to each other, and it's very, very cute. I like Xander and Cordelia. Xander and Cordelia are always fun for me. So I'm really enjoying it. I like Giles, like poor Giles, and we don't even get it textually, but it's absolutely there that he's still recovering from that awful experience of the Dark Age last week, and Jenny is nowhere to be found. And so he's throwing himself into his books. He's really cranky. I like that we're not just having Giles be normal Giles as though nothing had happened. We're carrying the resonance of that experience through into this episode. So there's actually lots of stuff that I really love in these episodes, but I think we've got Spike is kind of passing on the central antagonism. He's outsourcing it, and so he's outsourcing it to a team that is not that great or interesting.
Yeah, there's really not a lot of there with the Order of Taraka. And we hear over and over again about how terrifying they are and, that they'll just keep coming and keep coming. But it's sort of set up. Spike sets it up like there's 3 of them, but then Giles sets it up like there's an infinite number of them, and they just, are like cockroaches where there's one, there's, 11 skillion more of them. But I do love that Giles is clearly coping with everything that happened in the Dark Age. I mean, he wore his grumpy pants to this episode, but it's definitely, I think they're earned grumpy pants.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We see him in the library framed by books as he talks about the numbingly pompous and long-winded Watcher diaries.
Right.
Which is, first of all, just a great Giles line.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But he's like literally enclosed himself in books.
Yeah.
Like he's gone into his world. I absolutely buy Giles throwing himself into work as a coping mechanism.
Mm-hmm.
And then snapping at Xander.
Yes.
Because, men are allowed to be angry.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I was kind of like, that feels right that Giles would have just like had it up to here with everything that's going on. And then when he explains friendship to Kendra.
Yeah.
I love that so much on a number of levels. Like the idea, first of all, that you would have to explain to somebody what friendship is. Is just very dear, but you can hear it in his voice that he's like, I did not sign up for this.
Right.
This is way, this is not, no, 2 Slayers?
Yes.
This is not what I signed up to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
But then, of course, we get that lovely rapport between Giles and Kendra because she loves to read and she has studied and she's read things that he couldn't get through because they were.
I don't know. Does she love it? Or is she just so incredibly dutiful? She's studied in it because from the time she was a baby, like she didn't even know her parents, right? She's just given away to this Watcher on the potential that she might be called,
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
I think there's a level of joy that comes through with her, and I don't know that it's genuine. I don't know that I said that correctly. It's probably not that she loves to study, but she has this very strong sense of duty.
She's very dedicated. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And being of service, taking her role very seriously. I have so many questions though about Kendra.
Yeah.
I have so many questions.
It's such a weird thing for the world building.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah, I don't get it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, okay. So we've got one Slayer, right? One girl in all the world, right?
Right.
We have an entire council full of Watchers who are apparently funded by some kind of, I don't know, boosters club, whatever, right? They do, they sell cookies and do fundraising and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, they do.
Right.
Oh, God, Watcher fundraising.
Every time the Watchers Council comes to my house at Christmas trying to sell me that damn wrapping paper, I swear to God, right? But so they've got this whole thing going on and it's spread out all over the world and they've got, Slayers rising all over the place. But like it does, first of all, the fact that whatever culture it is that she is, which I think we're we're not told textually, are we, where she comes from, but
No.
there's a sense that she's like maybe from Jamaica, even though to me, I can't help it. She sounds Irish. Like, I know everybody, there's always people coming after Kendra for her accent. And you know what? Like, whatever. I like Kendra. I think she's great. The accent, I am thrown off by it because I'm like, this girl is Irish.
Yeah, I think she's supposed to be from somewhere exotic,
Right.
somewhere, it's just, it's a little bit of a muddled accent.
Yeah.
It's a little bit from everywhere.
Right.
And
because it doesn't matter exactly where she's from or that she's a complete character. They're just, so proud of themselves that they finally got somebody of color, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I guess this is where we have to talk a little bit about Buffy's racism and get that out of the way.
Yes.
Because, oh my gosh, Buffy mocking Kendra's speech patterns and speaking to her in faux Spanish and imitating her accent. I'm just like, no, please.
Speaking
Buffy.
of her Spanish, that is the most.
But like faux
Spanish.
Spanish. Like
right.
it's so, oh, no.
It's weird.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. The whole thing is, Buffy has a real whiteness problem, not just in the lack of diversity in like the cast and the above the line, crew, but like the general perspective of everything,
Yeah.
and this
There's
idea,
a real white superiority.
Yeah, it's just
there's a real sense of white superiority. I mean, Buffy treats Kendra like she couldn't possibly know anything.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that Kendra is more studied than Buffy is,
clearly more
Slayer-wise.
studied. Yeah.
Ooh, it's not good.
It's not good. I mean, I do like, I'm always glad to see, a person of color, an actor of color getting work. Like, that's always great, and so I'm like always happy about that. But the treatment of the character is very caricatured, quote unquote, exotic, right? Which is such a flattening of her as a human. And I mean, there's lots of stuff that I really like about it. I like that Kendra, comes from a culture, whatever that culture may be, where, where they take this very seriously, where the idea of the Slayer and the Watcher and the daughters go to these Watchers at a very young age and are raised just within nothing but that culture, nothing but and not even just the culture of wherever her home country is, which we don't establish. We just give her a very, very strange accent and we're like, it's it's somewhere else,
Yep.
So it's all very, very weird. But, she grows up within this like Watcher patriarchy, this very specifically, it's a special branded patriarchy of the Watchers.
Yeah, it really is. I have so many questions.
Yeah.
So her parents give her to her Watcher when she's young enough that she doesn't remember her parents.
Exactly. And
so
she's just a potential at that point. Like, we don't even know that she's going to be the Slayer. And I would imagine that most of the potentials do not become Slayers.
Right. Well, you wouldn't think so.
Yeah.
So parents know when their child is born.
I imagine they do some kind of test at birth.
What?
They pee on a stick. I don't know.
Congratulations, it's a Slayer.
Congratulations, it's a Slayer.
I mean,
Right.
How?
I don't know.
I mean, by whatever exotic other culture this is, somehow, it's the magic of the foreign.
Yes.
And, they just, mystically know in advance.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't know. So, okay. So usually there's only one Slayer.
Mm-hmm.
So if this girl who is given to her Watcher as a baby or a young child does not, isn't called.
Yeah.
Is she just sacrificed to the Watchers Council? Like, what happens?
What happens to these kids? Because here's the thing, like, let's say most potential Slayers are never called, right? And I imagine, it seems to me like when a Slayer dies, the one that is called is like 15. Right? 15, 16, very young, right? So if you are a potential and you make it to like 17 without being called, pretty much you're done, right? You're off the hook. So you've gone through your whole life like planning for this one event that never happens. And is she prepared for anything else? Like, I don't know. Like, it feels like, what do you do at that point? The one thing that you've been training for your whole life, just in case. And then suddenly you're like, nope, not doing that anymore. I guess, I don't know. I'll get my GED. Like, what do you do? It feels really weird. It feels really strange that, that just this part of the world that they build up, you think about it in context of everything else. And then here we have Buffy, who was called, who had none of that training, who had no idea, even though we don't see that in the TV show, like we get it from the movie. And even though the movie isn't necessarily canon to the TV show, whatever, like there's this sense, we do actually see it. I think we do see her get called in her first vampire slaying later in the series and flashback. But yeah, it's it's a weird, it expands the world in a very weird way. And then we have Giles, of course, who was called as a watcher. So we have all these watchers who work in the Watchers Council who sometimes never get a slayer, and I guess they're watching over all the other potential slayers. Like, it's all weird.
What is this?
It's all so incredibly weird. It expands the world in a way that feels like there's this thing, when I talk about world building, where like world building that is really well done, you can go into that world and you feel like you can put your hands on the wall. Like, it feels very sturdy. Yeah. And then there's other world building that kind of falls apart if you push against it at all. Your hand goes through the wall very, very easily. And I think there are parts of the Buffy the Vampire Slayer world building that have that problem. If you look at it sideways at all, if you do anything other than just go, yep, when they hand it to you, then it ends up kind of disintegrating a little bit. Now, the thing is, there's so many other strengths within Buffy the Vampire Slayer that, at a certain point, you're like, okay, fine, we'll just let that be whatever it is, But it is a little weird, a little strange, and I'm not really sure how to unpack all of that in, especially in the context of what we've seen so far. We've gotten very little at this point, very little of the Watchers Council. We do discover later that it's almost entirely, peopled with bastards. But which makes sense because it's the men get paid to watch the girls, and the girls who risk their lives get nothing but death and pain. Like, it's pretty terrible from the beginning. The Watchers Council, from all those guys, like calling the first Slayer back in Africa, from that time forward, it has all been bullshit. So I think that like this whole thing, with Kendra is just weird. It's just weird, and you kind of just have to let it go, because if you spend too much time poking at that, it's just, you're not going to get anything out of it.
It's just all going to collapse.
It's all going to collapse.
I do really like the introduction of another Slayer, though. I think that is a fantastic.
I love that.
I think that's a fantastic thing to work with, especially because we hit this beat of Buffy wanting a normal life.
Yes.
Throughout the season. Like, we've hit this a bunch of times.
Mm-hmm.
And here we have the first this is the first time that's really a possibility.
Yeah, no, it really is. And it's kind of cool. Like, I like this. And this is one of the things I like, is that we have Buffy, in this mundane experience, right? The career day thing, the aptitude test. What is your, what color is your parachute, Buffy? And so we go through this whole thing with her where she's looking at her future and basically, saying that it doesn't matter because this is what I'm going to do. But the fact of the matter is that, like, the Slayer is not a paid position. Like, she's going to have a job on top of being the Slayer. But when she talks about the fact that her future is pretty much set, that there's just nothing there for her, I think what she's talking about is that, the Slayer's life is nasty, brutal, and short. Like, she's going to, I think what she's looking at is the fact that it's not just that she won't really have time to pursue a career, but she's going to die, Yeah. And there's kind of a real, like, darkness in that,
Yeah. There's a lot of real darkness in her dialogue early in this story, too, where she says, I'll jump off that bridge when I come to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, wow. Hello. Like that. And she says something to Giles too about, oh, I don't have to be the Slayer. I could be dead.
Right.
She's really like,
she's in a nihilistic
really
place. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
yeah, because she knows what's coming.
She knows what's up. She knows that this only ends one way for her. And so I think it's really kind of interesting. She has this whole, like, we have this whole theme of Buffy in the normal life, right? She wants this one thing that she can't have. And then she's talking to Angel about it, and Angel's like, and here I am, I am everything but normal. And she's like, well, you're the one freaky thing in my freaky world that still makes sense to me, which is kind of interesting because she craves that normality. And yet her choice in, the man that she loves is a vampire with a soul, which is the least normal thing in the history of abnormal, and then we keep kind of going back to that, like later on when she gets pissed off at Spike, right? It's not about his big plan and Drusilla being, she's like, you can attack me, you can send assassins after me, that's fine, but nobody messes with my boyfriend. Like, yeah, she is reaching to put this in a normalcy context, for a teenage girl, and like wrestle Angel, who is this incredibly bizarre, vampiric unicorn, right? Like there's nothing else like him in the world, and pull him into this space of mundane normalcy. He's my boyfriend. Nobody messes with my boyfriend.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting to see her, even as she claims she wants normalcy, actively pursue, the thing that is least normal in her life.
Right. And her habit has her coming through the window, even when her mom is out of town.
Right.
Abnormal is Buffy's normal.
Yeah.
Whether she likes it or not. And that scene of Buffy and Angel in Buffy's room is one of my favorite things in both of these episodes. It's so good. I think it might be my favorite Buffy and Angel so far.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How did you know about Career Day? I lurk.
Or, otherwise known as stalking Edward Cullen, but whatever.
Right. It's whatever. It's fine. But, Buffy looking in the mirror and Angel isn't there.
Yes.
It's so good.
It's
good. So good. And then they start to talk. I feel like this is where their relationship hits a new level, because they start to talk about her childhood and skating and what she was like before all of this business with being a vampire slayer. And I just think that's very sweet. There's something really, really dear about, him finding the picture of her as a little girl and the way they talk about that. And then, of course, isn't it convenient that there just happens to be a skating rink? I mean, that was a little bit heavy-handed, but I gotta say, I loved seeing Buffy skate.
Yeah.
They devoted a little bit more time to that than I think, you might expect, because it doesn't advance anything.
Right. And it's a weird space for Buffy, because we're so used to like the place where Buffy is she's at school, she's at the graveyard, she's at home. Like those are the things, like having her in a skating rink. And I guess Sarah Michelle Gellar, was a figure skater. So, it was kind of fun to bring that talent in, Yes. So that was kind of nice. And it was nice to see her sort of in that space. But there were two things in this that just struck me as weird and felt off. One of them was the scene in the skating rink. And I don't know if it was that because a skating rink is not something that you can, that was really be dressed as a set. It was so incredibly mundane and not pretty, like not in the way it was shot, not in the way it was lit, not in anything. It's kind of one of those places you can't really control as much as you can, for other kinds of sets. So you're in this space and it doesn't look cinematic the way that the rest of Buffy does, And then we've got the scene with Giles and Buffy going through the graveyard in the daytime.
That looked so odd.
It was weird, right?
So odd.
It was weird. It felt so
odd.
strange because there's just something wrong. The graveyard and all of those same spaces we've been at, in at night like a million times, and they always have that certain kind of ominous look to them. And so when you see things that are ordinarily ominous, it's like, pulling back the curtain on something,
Yeah.
because when you see this thing that looks ominous and then you go back to it during daytime, bright sunlight, everything looks safe. Instead of it having a sense of like an interesting sense of contrast, it just felt out of the world for me.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't. Well, and I think it's a different graveyard too. I mean, I think when they're shooting at night, I want to say it's a set.
Yeah.
But
this was an actual graveyard. It looked like the same place to me,
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was weird looking. It was all weird looking. And that there's an effect that happens with the water.
Yes.
In the graveyard that it sort of reflects on the mausoleum and makes it all shimmery. And I don't know that was on purpose.
Yeah.
I wanted it to be really significant.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I mean, maybe someone in our community has a deep meaning for that.
Yeah.
But I really wanted that to be purposeful. I don't think it was.
Yeah. No, it was.
I don't know.
It was all weird.
It's a weird couple of episodes.
It is a weird. It has weird moments, but there's tons of stuff that I like, And I mean, moving from this like Buffy and normalcy and Buffy and Angel into the Spike and Buffy stuff. Let's go for a walk in Spike and Buffy land, because I got to tell you, like, I loved all of this. We have the beginning of Spike's complete obsession with Buffy, and I will tell you, like, I ship everything. Like, I ship everything. If two people give each other so much as a sideways glance, I'm like, I'm on it. I'm on the ship. That's great. I never shipped Spike and Buffy until later, like much, much later. When he woke up in love with her in season 5, I was like, no way. Like, I really honestly was so shocked by that. How can you do this with Spike? Now, of course, going back, I see all of this stuff kind of layered in with the two of them. So this is the beginning of Spike's obsession with Buffy. Spike has at the beginning, I'll dance with you, pet, on the Slayer's grave. So even when he's romancing Drusilla, he's still thinking about Buffy. He's like, we got to do something. I'm never going to complete your cure with that bitch breathing down our necks. He's like so completely obsessed. He gets the Order of Taraka, who's supposed to be the serious badasses, whatever. That doesn't really, see through. But there's also his trying and conveniently failing to kill Buffy because of what we have here as a failure to communicate, right? So Spike, when Willie brings Buffy to him, during the ritual, right? Spike is like, are you tripping? You bring her here now? And Willie says, you said you wanted her. And Spike says, in the ground, I wanted her dead. And he goes, now that's not what I heard. Word was you had a bounty on her, dead or alive, right? So is that an accident? Or did Spike deliberately really not want Buffy dead? Because I feel like that's one of those, like, Freudian slips, right, of business communication, right? He just conveniently left out the detail that he wanted her dead and let it be implied that it could be a bounty, dead or alive, and in the moment he does not want her dead. And then we have so many things, so many times. We've had it a million times already. We're going to have it a million times more. Buffy does not kill Spike either.
Yeah. How many times is it now that Buffy has had the opportunity?
This is at least the third
to kill
time.
Spike and hasn't.
This is at least the third time,
guys.
And dude has only been here for 7 episodes. Like, it really is. It is so interesting the way that they go at each other and yet don't kill each other. Now, I also understand that comes from an extra textual space, right? Because the writers love Spike and they don't want him dead, right? And who could possibly want him dead after seeing what James Marsters does with this character, right? But then we have this moment where Spike and Buffy, they're in the big fight. Everybody's, mixing it up, right? And Spike goes, I'd rather be fighting you anyway. And Buffy says, mutual. Right?
Yes.
And the two of them go after each other. And I find that so interesting because the two of them are just drawn together. And then we have this contrast, right? Angel is this reach for normalcy, despite him being like literally the least normal thing in the world, the only ensouled vampire, and out of everything, he's the only one of what he is, right? So she's reaching for normalcy with someone that could never have anything ever be normal. And Spike, is the truth of her life. Spike is the thing that is not normal, but her life will never be normal. Spike is the acceptance of that. So I see Spike as the thing she fights all throughout, the run of Buffy. Even when they're together, they're fighting, and she fights that idea that she will never be normal. And Spike, I think, represents that reality. And so the Angel normalcy is just a dream. It's a fantasy. It is a young girl's fantasy. And then when she finally gets to the point where she's with Spike in season 6, it is such a dark turn for her, because she's kind of accepted this reality, but it is a really dark reality because at that point, Spike doesn't have his soul yet. He's still a monster, and yet she is acknowledging that she is ready to kind of do that dark dance with him, and I think that that's really interesting. But back to this episode, like every good Spike interaction, this ends, of course, with him getting his ass fully kicked. I love that. It's your lucky day, Spike. 2 slayers, no waiting. I love that.
I love this reading of Spike and Buffy as drawn to each other kind of despite themselves.
Yeah.
I love the idea that it starts this early too.
I think it does. I think it's there in the text.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think you have a really, really solid argument there. I like that. I'm going to keep watching for that.
No, it's really fun. And I think part of it comes from the writers loving Spike. Right? If the writers love Spike, then that love comes through. They're using Buffy as a channel for their love for Spike. And Spike's obsession with Buffy, is so clear because it's not just like, there are people that get in Spike's way and whatever, and he gets irritated, but he gets absolutely just incensed with Buffy, right? Everything. She's not even doing anything. She's not after him. She's taking aptitude tests at the high school, and he's like the Slayer,
he's pissed. It's
because
so
he's
great.
completely obsessed with her. I think that these two have a very strange love. I think they just. Yeah. I think that there is a sort of connection between them from the start, from the beginning. And it's something that neither one of them wants, especially in the beginning. Spike then, of course, comes to realize it much earlier than Buffy does. But yeah, it's so cool and it's so fun. And I love them together. I love the progression of this relationship, the way it moves, really slowly, but clearly over the course of those 7 seasons.
We have a lot of that in this episode, or in this pair of episodes.
Yeah.
The relationships that are building or are starting to pay off. I'm thinking about Oz and Willow as well.
God, I love
Oz and Willow and Xander and Cordelia,
right,
of course.
Right.
And even Buffy and Angel and Spike and Drusilla, we've built all of these pairs up. So the idea that Buffy and Spike would also be building in this episode is actually really, really on point, I think.
Yeah, but it's all under the surface here. Like Buffy and Spike are a slow boil. I mean, absolutely a slow boil.
Oh,
but the number of times she could kill him and she doesn't. I mean, over and over and over and over again, we hit that note. And he puts this bounty on her and fails to say that he wants her dead. Like, he does not want her dead, So it's really, really fun. But let's talk about all these other pairs, because again, I ship it hard. I love
so many pairs.
There's so many ships.
Where do you want to start?
Oh, Willow and Oz.
Which ship shall we launch
Can we start
first?
with Willow and Oz?
Yes.
The loveliest of them all.
Oh my God. Every interaction.
Yes.
Is just so lovely.
I know.
Just like it's so good. There's not a bit of it for me that's not good.
Oh, I know.
I just love it all.
I know. And also, as if they're trying to appeal to my very specific heart, they gave me a meet cute 3-beat. It's so great. So we start with the two of them waiting for the software developer, like in that little back space, right? And he sees her, and you can see him react to her. He remembers her. He's been wondering, who is that girl for the last, couple of weeks, right? And then he just hands her the tray, and he says, "Canapé?" Kind of the most adorable thing ever. Then he comes to talk to her about the software thing, right? He's just talking to a girl and then takes a bullet for her. No bigs, whatevs. Just another Thursday for Daniel Osborne, right?
Right.
And then at the end, when she goes to thank him, right? He's, with the animal crackers, he has absolutely used animal crackers to perfect the art of the flirt. Listen to this clip.
Oh, look, monkey. And he has a little hat and little pants.
Yeah, I see.
The monkey's the only cookie animal that gets to wear clothes. You know that? You have the sweetest smile I've ever seen. So I'm wondering, do the other cookie animals feel sort of ripped? Like it's the hippo going, "Hey, man, where are my pants? I have my hippo dignity." And the monkey's just, "I mock you with my monkey pants." And then there's a big coo in the zoo.
The monkey is French?
All monkeys are French. You didn't know that?
No.
So that is the most adorable thing, that I've ever heard. Oz is so wonderful. He's so cool. He's so sweet. He's so thoughtful. He's humble. He's wonderful. And here is the thing that occurred to me when I was watching this, and I'm curious what you think about it. Is Oz the anti-Xander?
Absolutely.
Yes, right?
Absolutely. Oh, yeah.
He never says these objectifying things. He treats the women around him with complete respect. He doesn't play up this, standard teenage boys will be boys stuff. He's just the most wonderful guy. I love him.
His remark about it's a man's cord when Willow asks him about having ambition.
Lose a finger.
Yeah, you could lose a finger. Like, it's not.
Yeah.
That is a line that I could see being given to Xander.
Yeah.
But I think it would come across completely differently.
It would. Because what Oz is talking about is a man as opposed to a boy. What Xander will be talking about is a man as opposed to a woman and other lesser beings, right?
Yes.
So, I mean, that's the thing. Like, what Oz is talking about is maturity. That's a chord for a grown-up, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, he could say that's a grown-up's chord, but I mean, he is also putting it in masculine, terminology. But I mean, even with that, like, I still think that his intent is clear.
Yeah. Well, and I love that he is both. He is both extremely mature.
Yes.
And also kind of immature in that he doesn't really want a job.
No.
He doesn't really want to, he's not really interested in, being a big corporate suit guy.
Yeah.
He's snacking on animal crackers at the end, which is
charming.
So delightful.
But he's mature where it matters. But I mean, that's the thing. Like, he's mature where it matters.
Yeah.
And like last week, I think it was, we were seeing, or it may even been this episode. I don't know. I noticed it, but I didn't write it down. Where Xander was drinking from a juice box.
Yes.
Right? So we get that like kind of little kid sort of thing from Xander. And granted, I mean, we don't know very much, and I don't think we ever learn very much about Oz's family background, but it seems fairly normal. Whereas Xander's obviously is abusive and, alcoholic and really problematic. And so like Xander, we understand, in that context, especially when we're watching it fully spoiled for the whole thing,
Right.
But Oz has this, like, his reach toward childhood, is charming. And I think that it doesn't to me seem immature so much as he's not in a rush to be grown. Like he is still a kid, and he's happy and secure enough in himself to be that, you know?
Yeah.
So
you expressed that so much better than I did.
No. I mean, I like him. And I think that he represents like the absolute kind of ideal of masculinity and maturity in the ways that really matter, in the ways that come from his interactions with others, the way he has respect for people, the way he is not insecure about himself. He knows what he is, and he is completely fine with all of that. Like, he knows his strengths, he knows his weaknesses. It's cool. Like, he doesn't, so I love all of these things about Oz, and I love him with Willow when he says, "You have the prettiest smile," or "That's the sweetest smile I have ever seen." Like, it is so sweet. He slides that into the middle of the riff, the bit that he does on the animal crackers. It is the sweetest, most adorable thing. I just love it.
And he's so aware in that moment that he's using, I read it as he's using the discussion of the animal crackers as a sort of, to distract himself from having these feelings. Because she goes to thank him and he says, "Oh, no, I don't do thanks." And,
right. I'll blush.
Yeah, I get all red. I love the awareness. I love Oz's awareness.
Yes.
He's so great. That moment, though, where he first realizes who she is when she sits down on the couch next to him. And it's just, it's all in Seth Green's performance.
Yeah.
The slow realization of it's that girl.
Yeah.
It's so
Who is
good.
that girl? And the universe delivers her unto you.
So great.
It is so incredibly sweet.
So,
all right.
so good.
So we have the polar opposite, I think, of Oz and Willow in Xander and Cordelia.
Oh,
right?
baby. Xander and Cordelia.
I love them.
Xander and Cordelia. So I'm a big fan of the screwball comedies of the 30s and 40s. It Happened One Night, The Lady Eve, His Girl Friday, Bringing Up Baby. These movies where the romantic couple is forever at odds with each other, sparring verbally and sometimes physically until they inevitably get together in the end, as we always knew they would.
I know. I love those movies too. And I love you making this connection with Xander and Cordelia. I thought it was brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, we have an obvious screwball pairing in Cordelia and Xander, now that I really think about it and break it down, because screwball comedy relies on wordplay and a battle of the sexes, but especially a struggle between economic classes. And we reestablish the difference in Cordy and Xander's socioeconomic backgrounds while the students are taking their career fair quizzes in What's My Line Part 1.
Yes.
So Cordelia and Xander as a couple are obviously mismatched in a number of ways, and they're actively hostile to each other, which is something that turns up in screwball comedy all the time.
Sure.
And stubborn, self-confident Cordelia Chase is a fantastic screwball comedy heroine. I mean,
absolutely.
Cordelia excels as a badass in total charge of herself. I mean, all attempts to take her down a notch fail. She almost always has a reply for any insult that comes her way. And when she doesn't, it never seems to get to her.
Right. Yeah, because she has that confidence in herself, which I really love.
It's amazing. She is a perfect screwball comedy heroine.
Yes.
Having said all that, I'm not really sure how I feel about Xander and Cordelia. I feel like I should love this. I feel like I should be the cruise director of this ship.
It was made
and I'm
specifically
just
to delight you, right?
Yeah, like I feel like, oh, there's something. And I couldn't tell you what's missing. But I gotta say, I love the music cue when they kiss. Oh, dear God, that is so
dramatic.
Spot on. So perfect.
It really,
so perfect.
it really is. I actually love the pairing of Cordelia and Xander. I think that, he needs someone who will not put up with his bullshit, and someone who isn't overly charmed by him. Like, he needs someone who does not idealize him. And Cordelia definitely doesn't do that. Now I think where it's disappointing is that she could, clearly do better, right?
Yeah.
But they're so fun together, and he does match her. He matches her wit. He matches her intelligence. And and he can step with her. He can do the dance with her. He knows the steps, and they work really well together. And when they're sparring back and forth, neither one of them ever misses a serve. I mean, they just go back and forth, and it's really, really great. So I think that for now, like as a for now kind of thing, as a high school romance, I'm like, all right, Cordelia, have your fun, enjoy yourself. This is obviously not marriage material, but let's go. And it's not because of the socioeconomic thing of Xander. It's because of the, shadow Xander side.
Yeah.
It's those things that we see in Xander that especially come out later on in his relationship with Anya, which I find borderline emotionally abusive.
Yeah.
But this thing with Cordelia, she stands up to Xander, She's not chasing him. They're just kind of falling into this thing together, both of them horrified equally. So
yes.
So I really like it. I love Cordelia. And I think that it's a lot of fun, and it also brings Cordelia into the group. We're about to go into this Scooby expansion, right, where Oz becomes part of the core group, and Cordelia, who has been sort of floating around, is actually being incorporated into the group where they're all part of this crew, and so that's fun. It's fun to see that expansion. Cordelia and Xander do seem like the shadow version of Willow and Oz. Right.
Yeah, a little bit.
A little bit. Yeah.
I could definitely see that. But you mentioned the Scooby Gang, and we get our first textual reference. Xander gives it to us. And then there's a wonderful visual moment when they're coming out of the basement and we see them sort of down the hall and their little heads poking around the edge of the door. And it's a perfect Scooby-Doo moment. And I love it so much.
No, it's absolutely adorable. So moving on to others of our pairs, we have Spike and Drusilla. Right?
Oh, Spike and Drusilla.
Which is really kind of fun. I like the two of them.
Yes. Spike and Drusilla. I still really want to know what makes a vampire sick and weak. I still really want to know what's up with Drusilla.
Right. And what does that do to the world building? I don't think, and I've seen this show a lot, but I've clearly missed stuff because you show me things I've never seen before in my entire life every time we do an episode of this. But I don't know that we ever really get an answer. What we've heard so far is that she's dying, right? Which is weird because vampires typically die 3 ways: stake, beheading, fire, and apparently mob. Right? And it was some kind of mob in Prague that did this to her. So we have now within the world building some kind of, I don't know if someone in the mob cursed her or poisoned her, but there's obviously now a 4th way to kill vampires. It just is a very slow way.
Yeah. And obviously, and her madness is something that Angel did to her prior to making her a vampire. So that's something that has carried over from being, I don't get it. I love Drusilla. I love Drusilla. I love every choice that Juliet Landau makes. I'm in awe of some of the choices that she makes because I'm not sure it would have occurred to me given some of the lines that she gets. To perform them the way she does. It's a masterful performance.
Yeah, Juliet Landau is a freaking genius. She does Drusilla in a way that is, it almost, and it's such a risk too, because it's so easy to go over the top. It's so easy to go so far into something that you cannot come back, that it's just way too much and it's totally overdone. But when you have somebody with the kind of talent that Juliet Landau has, she lands this. She pushes Drusilla right to the edge and lands right on that point where if she took it just an inch further, it'd be too much. But what she does with it is also so imbued with real emotion, she's real vulnerability. She is sick. She is weak. She loves Spike, the way that she responds to Angel, she torments him, she tortures him, she calls him bad daddy, all of these things. It's so fascinating to me how she manages to pull that off, playing Drusilla so far, so close to camp, but yet I think because she anchors Drusilla in this real, you do get a sense of the real trauma, for her. You do get a sense of real love for Spike. You do get a sense of anger, when she's torturing Angel. Like, that's vengeance, and because while Drusilla is so far, off the scales with everything from her, every line is unexpected in the way that Juliet Landau delivers it, you get her so far, but Julia Landau anchors her in all of these things that are normal human experiences and pulls it back from there. It's genius.
Yeah. I love the connection when she's torturing Angel and she's talking about food.
Yeah.
It's so creepy, but it's also so beautiful. Because she's got this real vulnerability of remembering her human existence. This is, again, where I'm not super clear on what we've been told about vampires versus what we get from the vampires that we see. Because it really, Drusilla, I think, maybe more than any of the other vampires, at least until much later, really feels like a reflection of who she was before.
Yeah.
Like, she really feels like we've just taken this girl that Angel has tortured and driven insane and made her a vampire, because she's got these vivid sense memories of her life and of her family that she's tormenting him with. I can't. It's so good. There's no words.
It's so incredibly good. And I love the relationship between Spike and Drusilla. This is one of the things too, like this idea that a vampire, is just a flat evil demon that takes over and that's it. It has your memories, but it is not you, and all this stuff. Like, there is that sense of the personality there. There is that sense of who they are. And even as vampires, allowing us to see their humanity, even when it's a dark humanity, I think is such a powerful choice for, the writers here, that giving us vampires that even while they're doing evil things, we look at them, we say, oh, I love them together. Oh, look, he calls her cute names,
Oh my God. I love his rotating list of pet names for Drusilla.
I know.
Pet and kitten and ducks. Ducks is adorable. Is that a Britishism?
It's a Spikeism at the very least.
So
I don't know. I don't know.
Love it.
But it is really sweet. And everything that he refers to her with is all helpless, right?
Yeah.
Like the little pet, kittens, ducks, right? They're like these helpless little animals. And yet Drusilla is anything but. And when we see that power dynamic switch at the end, right? When she rises from the ashes of this, really shoddily made organ, that thing falls apart like nothing.
It's one of those traditional balsa wood organs.
Exactly.
That all convents had installed at one point.
Obviously, no enthusiastic organ player had ever done Amazing Grace on that thing, or it would have fallen apart a long time ago. But she pulls him up from the ashes of this organ, and she's carrying him through, and she's like, "You're going to be strong like me." And we see that Drusilla, when she was weak, was never weak. Now she has got all her full power back, and she is going to be, like we're seeing this switch. And of course, Spike is injured horribly, near death, right? And now she's going to take care of him. And so it's interesting kind of seeing that power dynamic between them switch, and yet they're still dedicated and devoted to each other. She could have left him there. She's got her full strength back. She didn't need him. Right?
Yeah,
she pulls him from the thing and, don't worry, my dear heart. Right? She is still caring for him. They are a team. They are together. They are united. They are in love for a given value of love that vampires can, enjoy.
Right. Whatever freaky, weird love works for vampires.
Yes. Okay, so I think we've hit on most of the stuff we wanted to talk about. Do you have anything for what are you wearing?
I've got a little bit.
Okay.
Buffy's enormous flannel shirt.
Yes.
It's an interesting choice.
It is different. We're seeing Buffy move into a much more casual space.
Yeah. It's a very, very dressed down for Buffy. Mm-hmm. It's not a bad thing. I like it. It's adorable, but
it's depressed Buffy, right?
Yeah.
She's looking at her future. It's completely blank and dark. It's nothing but fighting vampires until finally one of them gets the better of her and kills her. I think it's just depressed Buffy.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a nice contrast to Kendra's I Dream of Jeannie superhero outfit.
Yeah.
That is apparently her only outfit.
Right. Which is a little weird. I mean, granted, she had to stow away in the cargo hold of the plane.
Right.
So I guess I think if you're stowing away in the cargo hold, you don't have to worry about extra fees for checking a bag. I mean, why not just pack something?
When you are your own checked luggage, it's a whole world of possibility.
Exactly. It opens up that space for you a little bit more.
Yeah. And it's funny to me that she talks about traveling undercover, but what she's wearing is so distinctive.
Yes. Yes. It definitely calls attention.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, I don't hate it. I just kind of don't get it.
Right.
What?
I don't get it in the context of especially this girl who has been training from the time that she was little, right, to be a slayer, and who takes everything very seriously, who is incredibly shy. She defers to Giles immediately, but connects with him on this combined history of studying, knowing what they were going to be on two different sides of this whole thing, this whole dynamic between the Watcher and the Slayer. But they understand each other, but she can't even talk to Xander. She's so shy around boys. She's so and yet what she's wearing. And here's the thing, I don't have a problem with what she's wearing as it is, but I think that on a girl who is too shy to even look a boy in the eye and speak to him, to wear something that is so form-fitting, to wear something that exposes her midriff in this very sexy way. She's got all of this really elaborate makeup done, which in the world was not done by a makeup artist. She supposedly had done that herself, right? So these are the kinds of things that you look at her and the way that she's styled. And granted, again, in TV and film, it's not about what it is. It's not about what it literally is. It's supposed to be about what it feels like. Kendra feels like that kind of empowered woman, empowered with her body, empowered with her looks, empowered with everything, right? But we actively and textually characterize her as somebody who doesn't feel empowered at all. She doesn't feel empowered to make her own choices about what she wants to do with her life. She doesn't feel empowered to do anything that's outside of the Slayer handbook, right? She doesn't feel empowered to speak to a boy, So it feels like a weird contrast to me.
Yeah. Yeah. And I do think that part of the reason for her costume and styling being what it is to make her look foreign and exotic. As much as I hate saying that, I really think that some of her styling is there to make her look other. Because if she showed
made
up
to look other. Exactly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If she showed up looking, more like Buffy.
Right.
If she showed up, in a t-shirt and jeans even.
In yoga pants and a pair of sneakers. If you're going to fight vampires, you got to be comfortable. You got to be able to move with this. They should be wearing dancers' outfits. I mean, something you have to be able to move your body, so when they wear these outfits and I'm like, one big hop and you're popping right out of that shirt, girl, it's distracting to try to kill a vampire with your boob out. I'm just saying,
Maybe if you distract
speaking from
the
personal
vampire?
experience. I don't know. But anyway, long story short, like, I know I keep coming down on this whole outfit thing, and it's mostly just because it always strikes me as funny, you know?
I love it.
But you really do want, like, the outfits to represent how they feel. And I think that Buffy and her depression and her looking at her future and seeing absolutely nothing, that her moving into a more depressed outfit, I think makes sense, you know? So I like the way that Buffy's styled here. It's out of character for her, but she's also going through a thing. The way that Kendra is styled feels, again, and I think part of this also comes from the flat way in which we characterize her, that we don't even care where she's from. We don't care, like, what specific way in which she's exoticized. She is other and therefore mysterious. She's a combination of, like, you know, like, racist views of, like, African, you know, people and Jamaican people and the mysterious Orient and, like, all of these, you know, otherized tropes, like, all shoved into one character in this very weird way, to the point where whatever work they did on her accent was so weird, you know. And I don't blame, you know, the actress Bianca Lawson for that, because I'm not sure that it was ever clear where she was from. Like, what is this community that she lived in? Did she grow up in a city? Did she grow up in a small town? Did she, like, where?
Yeah.
You know, I swear to God, the girl sounds Irish to me. I swear to God she does. I am the only person I've ever known to say that, but she sounds Irish to me. It is weird that, and then we have some of these Jamaican affectations. It is just like a hodgepodge of otherizing.
Yeah.
And I really hate, because I love the idea of Kendra.
Yeah.
I wish that they had done something that was anchored more in actual reality and representation, you know, rather than this idea of the exotic other. It feels a little lazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's unfortunate.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it is.
It's unfortunate, like our patriarchy moments this
Ooh,
week.
arg, the patriarchy.
Oh, God.
What you got for me?
Oh, dear God. Okay, so Xander Harris uses the phrase locker room talk, and I just...
Right, as a dismissive,
yes,
you know, as a mitigating factor. Just locker room talk. Yeah.
Just locker room talk. And I was like, nope.
Nope. I know. I mean, I do understand that it is directly due to a current context, but at the same time, locker room talk is in itself a mitigating phrase that is basically just a variant on boys will be boys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is a thing, like this idea that, well, all guys in locker rooms talk like this and make these remarks about women and their bodies and promiscuity and no, I don't like it. Dislike, unsubscribe. I do not prefer it. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. And then I learned something very interesting.
Yeah.
Which is that in part 2, Willie's line to Buffy and Kendra about his friend with the camera and taking nude photographs is not Marty Noxon's writing.
Oh, yeah?
She's the only credited writer on that episode, but that is a Joss Whedon addition.
Oh, did you see that somewhere?
He added that exchange to the script. That is in the DVD commentary.
Oh, interesting.
Yep.
Wow. I have to say, I am not falling over with shock from that revelation. I am not falling over with shock. It sounds like it's got Joss Whedon meter to it, you know, like in the way that the word or that the line is written, in the way it plays out. But on top of that, it also has this very creepy kind of predatory element to it that is not unfamiliar in some of Joss Whedon's work.
And it adds nothing to the scene other than this misogynistic coda on the interaction with Willie.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and Willie's supposed to be a sleazeball, so
yeah, he is,
fair enough. But at the same time, in its greater context, you know, throughout a lot of the things that we see from beloved characters, you know, in the run of Buffy, it's something that's gonna, you know, make you kind of twinge a little bit.
Yeah. And I mean, and we just like, it's gross. We don't need it. And it bothers me that Joss Whedon is inserting his writing into this. I mean, it doesn't add anything.
That's a
other
standard
than grossness.
That's a standard thing, though. That's a punch up. Like everybody in a writer's room, you go through the script and everybody punches up and throws things in and you know, throws in jokes and that kind of thing. So that's actually pretty standard.
Sure.
But at the same time, this is like when he steps in, that's what he brings.
Right.
You know, it's
it
like,
doesn't
really?
add anything.
It's the guy who brings the Jell-O to the party that has the carrots on top. Like, this is what you brought to the potluck? The Jell-O with the shredded carrots? That's what you brought? Like, what is that even about? Who put shredded carrots on Jell-O in the first place? Like, that's just not okay. But anyway, long story short, Joss Whedon brought the shredded carrot Jell-O.
Some unfortunate potlucks at your workplace.
What I'm saying, no, when I was a child, that was actually something that my mother, you know, gave us. And I don't know if it was just like, okay, here's the Jell-O and a delivery mechanism for this carrot so that you have some kind of nutrition going into your body. I don't know if that's what that was about, but it was always weird and gross to me. So, you know, long story short, Joss Whedon just shredded some carrots on top of that Jell-O. In the weird sense, not in the nutritive sense, not in the that there's any value to this at all sense, but in the nobody asked for this, go away sense. That's
nobody asked for this. No.
Oh God. So of course, if we're talking about the patriarchy, we have to nod at the Watchers Council. We did already kind of have this discussion.
Oh yeah.
You know, like in you know, we had this discussion quite extensively earlier, but the Watchers Council is basically just a flavor of patriarchy that is so terrible and so unquestioned. You know, like I mean that's the thing about the Watchers Council is that nowhere until we get to season 5, you know, and Buffy finally slaps them down, you know, until we get there. We really, I guess we do question the Watchers Council in season 3. So we will get to that in Helpless because that's when she quits, I think. So she quits the Watchers Council in season 3 and Giles gets fired. So there is that. Okay. So we do question the Watchers Council, but at this point we're not questioning any of this, you know?
Yeah.
And as a patriarchal system, we don't really look at that and, you know, textually at that it being specifically the patriarchal system of it being the big problem, until we get to season 7. You know, that's when we first start to question that. But yeah, the Watchers Council is a big arc of the patriarchy thing. Whenever it raises its ugly head in Buffy, it's always going to end up in the ATP section of Still Pretty.
It's gross. It's gross. Kendra isn't allowed to talk to boys. She can talk to girls. That's fine.
Right.
So, you know, way to be heteronormative, Watchers Council.
Sure.
And of course, heteronormativity is one of the many Hydra heads of the patriarchy. So there we go.
There you go. Just one of the many ways in which the patriarchy is ruining people's lives every day. All right. So what is your girl power moment of the week?
I love Buffy's take on emotions.
Mm-hmm.
I love it so much. Kendra tells her that emotions are weakness, and she says, no, emotions give me strength. And I think that is rad.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I co-sign that so hard, especially for women and girls who are told that because they are emotional, just naturally, women and girls are emotional. Men and boys, of course, are not.
Right. You're angry or you're hysterical. Mm-hmm. So these are the things that are thrown at women so that when they are upset about something, they are completely invalidated.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Buffy says, nope, that is the source of strength. And I agree. Philosophically, I love it.
Yes. No, I think it's fantastic. All right. So tell me, what's your favorite part?
My favorite part is Seth Green's entire performance. Is that cheating? Is that too broad?
No, this is your favorite part. You bring whatever
My favorite part is all of Seth Green.
Of it, yes. Mm-hmm.
But if I have to boil it down to a couple of moments, it's a tie between the way he says sometimes in response to Willow's observation that his hair is brown, which is just such a great interaction.
Yeah.
And his reaction when Buffy is having her anxiety attack and grabs him in the hallway. Yeah. And he says, that is a tense person. So good.
God, I know. It's
so
just
good.
Adorable. It is really adorable.
What's your favorite part, Lani?
Well, I got to tell you, I'm going to take a little page out of your playbook because it is an Oz moment, but it is that lovely flirt with Willow at the end when he does the whole riff on the animal crackers. I mock you with my monkey pants, you know. And of course, all monkeys are French, right?
The monkey's French?
The monkey's French.
All monkeys are French. Didn't you know that?
It's so adorable. It's one of my favorite moments in all of Buffy. I always remember it. I always remember it, you know, divorced from the context of what's my line, just as like when I think about all of my favorite moments in Buffy, I mock you with my monkey pants is like one of my favorite things. He goes on that whole riff and it's just adorable. I love the way he is with Willow. I love the way he is just in general with everyone. And yeah, it's great to have Oz. All right, that's it for today. To join in the discussion on Twitter, follow me at Lani Diane Rich and Noelle at Noelle Aloud and use the hashtag StillPretty. You can also visit the Chipperish forums. Go to chipperish.com, click on forum, and join in the fun.
Or you can keep Chipperish Media going to the tune of $1 a month or more and gain access to the live chat in Discord, where you can hang out with me and Lani and all the Chipperish patrons who sort of test well, which is cool. Visit patreon.com/Chipperish to find out more.
This episode of Still Pretty was brought to you by Power Producer Alice. Alice supports Chipperish Media at the Power Producer level and as a reward gets to tell y'all that you need to get out there and vote. Tuesday, November 6th, for everyone in America. Get out there and get your voices heard. Thank you, Alice, and thank you to everyone who supports Chipperish Media and to everyone who votes on Tuesday. I don't care how you vote. Get out there and vote. Visit patreon.com/Chipperish to find out how you, too, can become a Still Pretty producer.
We're off next week for Chipperish Civic Responsibility Pride Week, but we'll be back after that with Ted, the 11th episode of Season 2. Until then, I'm thinking dinner and a movie. I don't want to rush into anything. I've been hurt, you know.